Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 Rocket Classic DFS Tactics Show. We have a lot to get into. First off, we're going to take our final look at the forecast, figure out if there is a wave advantage that we want to exploit this week in Detroit. We're going to take a look at my rankings. We're going to make some lineups. And of course, at the end of the show, we're going to take a look at the 2025 Picks Challenge between myself and Gabe. So we have a lot to cover. I don't want to waste any time. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I post research regarding past champions of the tournament of that week, some patterns they all share, players in the field who also fit those patterns. Didn't do anything for the Rocket Mortgage because it was a very erratic set of past champions. But normally, if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show, so that'll be out later this evening. If you want to see the players I'm wagering and the players I'm using most often in my lineups, go give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle is in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. I can't recommend it enough. And make sure you're following him over on social media, because his social media page is where we post our detailed write-ups for our Picks Challenge. I know I go over them at the end of the show on Wednesdays, but his social media page is where our detailed write-ups are listed. So if you want to see our reasoning, our detailed reasoning for our picks, make sure you're following over on social media and subscribe to his article, because you are really missing out if you aren't subscribed to it. He sends out projected ownerships early on Wednesday, continues to update you throughout the week. I mean, I really can't recommend it enough, so make sure you're doing that. And lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you all. I see a couple of you in there. I'll get to you momentarily. Make sure to answer the poll question when I post that. That'll be up momentarily as well. I want to hear who your winner is. Who do you think is the favorite? Who are you targeting and staying away from? Do you see a wave advantage? We'll go into the forecast here momentarily. Everything Rocket Mortgage and Detroit Golf Club, or Rocket Classic, I should say, and Detroit Golf Club. Put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. And if you're not able to catch the show live, make sure to put your thoughts and opinions in the comments. I'll always get to them as well. So let's get into it. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2025 Rocket Classic. We're going to start, as we always do, on a Wednesday evening with the super forecast over at Windfinder. Good evening, Awaken. Good to see you in chat. Much appreciated. Got a notification. Glad you're back. Hope all is well. Yes, after the 6-week very scary hiatus, I came back on believe U.S. Open week. Travelers last week wasn't very good, so I'm still trying to hit my stride from having 6 weeks off dealing with family stuff. But it's very good to see you in chat. Hopefully you've had a lot of success in the time that I was away, and we're ready for the Rocket Classic this week. I was calling, but man, don't like his interviews. Might be Cantley time. We'll get into that. I am certainly fading one of those two. And like I said, I'll get into that momentarily. Let me post this poll question before I start to ramble and forget. This was an interesting thought experiment for me. I kind of threw this back and forth with Gabe. Thought it might be an interesting poll question for the viewers. What skill do you think is most important at Detroit Golf Club? And again, understand I only have 4 options here in terms of answers. So, if you think it's something else, feel free to put that in chat as well. But what do you think is the most important skill at Detroit Golf Club? Is it driving distance? Is it long iron proximity? Is it wedge proximity? Or is it putting? And again, if there's something else that you think it could be, put it in chat as well. All right. This forecast has changed considerably throughout today. basically what we're looking at, we had a little bit of rain supposedly today. It looks like we could get a shower tomorrow, but all in all, everything seems to be pretty even tomorrow. Very little wind to start. Maybe a shower mid-morning or late morning. High into the upper 80s. Wind might pick up a little bit on Thursday afternoon. Friday is where it changes. Friday morning looks much the same. Very little wind. And then you see the front that's coming in. Looks like we're going to get a little bit of rain as well. Possibly. At least that's what's in the forecast Friday. But based on this, I cannot see any world where you would not consider the Thursday PM, Friday AM to have a pretty heavy favor. Pretty favorable wave advantage here for Thursday PM, Friday AM. Now, again, this has changed considerably throughout today. So if you have the opportunity to either stay up late and make sure you get your final, or an updated forecast later this evening, or if you have the capability to wake up early tomorrow and get the updated forecast, I'm always going to suggest that you do that. But if this is indeed the final forecast that you are able to see before you finalize your lineups, I would have to consider a heavy Thursday PM, Friday AM advantage. So keep that in mind as we're moving forward this evening. And then as we look, if we zoom out, take a look at the weekend. Weekend doesn't look like too much, to be honest. Maybe a little bit of wind from the tail end of this front that's coming through, because you see the high is going to be about 90 Friday. The high is only going to reach the low 80s on Saturday. So it's a cold front coming through for one day. And then Sunday looks like it's going to get hot again with highs near 90. But very little wind looking like over the weekend. So again, the most important part for us this evening, especially as we prepare our week-long lineups, our GPP lineups, pretty significant Thursday PM, Friday AM favor, what we're working with tonight. I'll actually leave that up. We're going to go to Fantasy National. I meant to have all these players unstarred. I apologize. So let me do that very quickly. There was one more field change that happened yesterday. Since Monday evening, Tony Finau has withdrawn. Tony Finau is not playing this week. So make sure if you submitted lineups early, make sure he is not in your lineups. Tony Finau has withdrawn. I know it says he has a 12:43 tee time. I can tell you he has withdrawn. We go to leaderboard. I'll attempt to find Tony Finau, and there's no results. He does not have a tee time. He is not playing. So, based on the forecast that we just looked at in Windfinder over here, particularly Friday and maybe a little bit of Saturday, in moderate and windy conditions, going back to the beginning of 2024, your top performers in moderate and windy conditions have been Colin, Hideki, Siwoo, Alex Smalley, Alex Noren, Harry Hall, Keegan Bradley, Ryan Gerard, Mac Meisner, Wyndham Clark, and Patrick Rogers. The only other thing that we're going to take a kind of an overview, big picture view of Detroit Golf Club is very, very easy. Now, the forecast that we have might keep this from being a birdie fest, but typically winning scores are around 22 to 23 under. Tony Finau won at 26 under 3 years ago. So if there is any amount of favorable scoring conditions, this is going to quickly turn into a birdie fest and a putting contest, but we'll get into that. So your top performers the past year and a half when rounds have been easy relative to par: Ben Griffin, Colin Morikawa, Siwoo Kim, Davis Thompson, Harry Hall, Luke Clanton, Michael Kim, Ryo Itsatsune, Patrick Cantlay, Alex Smalley, and Doug Ghim. All right, I don't want to spend too much time. We've got a lot to do. So let's go ahead and jump into the mixed condition model that I have made for Detroit Golf Club and the Rocket Classic this week. We're going to start with 5% off the tee. I did end up factoring in a little bit off the tee. I was on the fence about it Monday night, kept talking about it, and decided to have 5% in the mixed condition model. Distance has declined in terms of importance year over year here at Detroit Golf Club. Fairways have been pretty inconsistent one way or another, so I wasn't terribly confident with it. These fairways are wide, they're easy to hit. I cautioned viewers Monday night to not fall into the trap that you have to be a bomber here. I don't think you have to be a bomber here, because everyone sees these past champions. Cam Davis twice, hits it a long way. Finau, Bryson, even Ricky doesn't get enough credit for how well he moves it off the tee. But the rest of the, especially the top fives into the top tens, weren't exactly littered with humongous bombers. So I don't think it is mandatory for a player to be a bomber to compete here. So 5% off the tee. I did use the filter easy relative to par. 20% approach. This is a Don Ross design. These greens are small. These greens are easy to hit, but these greens are small, and they have the typical Don Ross design to them where they're pushed up. Think of an upside down salad bowl, trying to hit the the roof of a Volkswagen Beetle, things of that nature. Just that general shape is what these greens are, and most Don Ross designs are. So I want to make sure that players are very, very good with their irons, and especially lately with their irons. 10% in putting. And I did this for the Travelers. I did this for the U.S. Open. But at least for the past winners at Detroit, these past winners, you think of, Tony Finau and Cam Davis, Ricky, not at that point in his career. Ricky was a lot better putter earlier in his career. These guys weren't great putters, but what they were is they were extremely hot with the putter coming to the Rocket Classic or Rocket Mortgage previously. So I wanted to see who was in really good form with the putter. 10% there. 5% on Bent and Poa Annua, in case we have some specialists. Like Keegan Bradley is a Bent and Poa Annua specialist, seemingly. At least he putts Bent and Poa Annua well. So those three courses are the Travelers, where we were last week, TBC River Highlands, the Fortinet, the Silverado, and then, of course, Detroit, where we are this week. 10% good drives. Again, really, really emphasizing the irons this week. Players are hitting fairways, or they are good enough from the rough that they can still hit the green in regulation. 10% good drives, again, when scoring is easy relative to par. I mentioned this last week with the Travelers. If this does not play as easy as I think it will, I'm going to be weak. The Travelers did not play as easy as I thought it was going to, and therefore I did not have a very good week. So just be mindful of that is a built-in weakness that is possible with this mixed condition model. I think this is going to be very, very easy. Good evening, P. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Good to see you. I think this is the first time I've seen you since I've been back. So hopefully you've had a good couple of months. I know you and I spoke a little bit throughout that that 6-week hiatus. So since this is the first time I've seen you, I really do appreciate the kind words and messages that you sent in that time. Myself and my family does. Everything is going well. The move has been successful. I have consolidated to one room, so I feel a little bit cramped, but we're live and we're back at it. Now, the U.S. Open and the Travelers weren't very good for me, so I'm going to try to get back on the right foot here soon, hopefully this week. But I'm going to shaking a little bit of the rust off. But it's good to see you in chat, P. Very, very much appreciated. I hope you've had a good couple of months and then been successful in all of your endeavors in that time. 15% opportunities gained when rounds are easy. Look, if winning scores here at Detroit are going to be 22, 23, even 24 under, guys are going to have to give themselves a whole lot of opportunities because they're not going to make every single putt. It's just not going to happen. So you're going to have 30 to 35 opportunities to get to score. And I wanted to see who gives themselves the most opportunities when it's easy. 15% there. 10% birdies or better gained. Look, giving yourself opportunities is great. You got to convert them at some point. That's why I've got quite a bit of putting and recent putting. I've got a little bit of bent and Poa-annua specialty in case someone's a specialist. But guys got to convert. It's not enough to just 2-putt for par around here. You've got to score, or you're going to get run over at Detroit. So 10% birdies or better. Travelers is my hometown. Wicked heat last week and this week. Yes, it was very hot in Cromwell last week. I mentioned this last week. I knew another viewer was very local, and I thought somebody else was pretty local to the Travelers. I did not remember it was you, but I thought another viewer was. So did you happen to go to the Travelers? If you did or did not, what'd you think of Tommy on the last back 9 basically? Yeah, but Travelers is a fun tournament. I got maybe 1 or 2 things right, so it was not a very good week for me. We're going to finish the mixed condition model off this week with some specialties or some specifics here. 5% in the 350 to 400 par 4s. There's 4 of them here at Detroit Golf Club. There's a lot of short par 4s here. There's also a few long par 4s, 450 to 500. So there's 5% there. So 10% kind of in those par 4s. You have 4 in this length, 4 in this length, and then 2, at least on the scorecard, from 400 to 450. And then we finished the mixed condition model off. Par 5 scoring is almost everything here at Detroit Golf Club. So 3 of the par 5s fall from 550 to 600. We're going to take a major look at par 5s tonight. 15%. Par 5s, 550 to 600. So there's a look at the mixed condition model that I've made for the Rocket Classic. Again, if this does not play as easy as I think it will, I'll be weak to it. I did not factor any around the green because if players are having to rely around the green, they're going to be generally scrambling for par. You're going to get run over here at Detroit if you're doing that. That's why I have so much in the par 5s to simulate what any around the green should be from players going for these greens in 2. If off the tee or if distance matters, I didn't, specifically list out distance. If that matters, I'll be weak. But there's the mixed condition model that I've made for this week. So as we move forward tonight, keep that in mind as I reveal the rankings. And for your information, if you're a new viewer to the channel, as a reminder for returning viewers, my rankings are based on 3 criteria. The Fantasy National rank, FNGC rank, is a straight numerical ranking based on the mixed condition model we just went over, the metrics, the filters, percentages. Fantasy National will spit out a ranking. Course value is an attempt at giving a player a numerical value at how well they have played that course in the past 5 years. The lower the number, the better. So you see somebody like Patrick Cantlay, Cam Young, who has 2 top 5s or maybe it's 2 top 10s. Very low course values, meaning they've been very good. Whereas players who have not been very good, like Michael Kim has missed 3 cuts in 4 tries here, his course value is very high. And then we are playing DFS. We're trying to find unique options or players off of our fellow contestants. So projected ownerships, and these are from Gabe. Gabe has been doing projected ownerships now for the past couple of months. I've been very impressed with his methodology and and all of that. He's done pretty well. He's always going to miss 1 or 2 guys, but for the most part, he's been pretty spot on in all of our testing. So projected ownerships is also a factor into my rankings. This is why I've done another column here that I don't normally do. With the perceived wave advantage, and again, I'll bring up Windfinder just very quickly. With the perceived wave advantage of Thursday PM and Friday AM, I've got those players in green here. This is not explicitly put into my rankings. I'm making it very, very clear. It's not explicitly in my rankings, so that's why I have this color-coded and showing that he has a Thursday PM, Friday AM tee time, whereas the ones in red are Thursday morning and Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon, seemingly as of right now, being the worst part of the draw by a pretty substantial margin. So my rankings, and I don't like them, but I understand why they are the way they are. My rankings go as such. Siwoo Kim, number 1. Understand he is getting helped considerably because he is so unique off of everybody else at the top of the price board. Colin Morikawa 2nd, Ben Griffin 3rd, Keegan and 6,800 Joel Damon 5th, which I really don't like because he's not necessarily been good here. He just is extremely unique. To be fair to him, though, the Fantasy National model did rate him 8th. Keith Mitchell 6th, Batia, Cantlay, Harry Hall, and Cameron Young round out my top 10. I did go with some friends. To be honest, I saw it coming the whole time, but Tommy shall get his first win in Scotland. Well, a lot of people have backed Tommy for a long time, and I'm just going to say it. Like, he hadn't won. Until somebody wins, it's really hard to continue to back somebody. That doesn't mean he won't play well, but in terms of like outright wagers, I have broken free of the Tommy Fleetwood spiral. I guess is the best way to put that. I've stopped donating my money betting on Tommy Fleetwood. Now, that's not to say that I don't make some idiotic bets, because I have recently, but I have broken free of the Tommy of the Tommy bet. So let's get into it here. I don't want to ramble on too much about my rankings, as I cover this a lot in going through the price board as well. But like Siwoo, yes, he's got the supposed good half of the draw, very unique. I'm scared away by his withdrawal last week. He is still listed as in the field for the Rocket Classic. I'm just staying away. I'm just staying away because he withdrew last week. If you're not scared of that, it's probably a really good play, especially considering how unique he is. I'm just staying away. I'll talk about Colin later. Joel Damon, I'm not really in. I really don't like Joel Damon this week, despite his ranking. He's really getting propped up by the fact that he's just a very, very good iron player. But you see, he's never performed well here. And a lot of that has to do with this. His putter, not very good. and he's really bad on the surface. Like, he's been Joel Damon like on the greens recently, but it's exacerbated. It's really bad on this surface. So, as I was mentioning, it's not enough just to give yourself a bunch of opportunities. You've actually got to convert them. I just don't see Joel Damon converting them enough. So I'm not in agreement with this part of the calculations. Otherwise, I really don't have any or too many qualms. Like I said, I understand why Siwoo's number one, especially considering how low owned he is. I understand why Colin's second. Ben Griffin, hard to argue how hot he is lately. Same with like Cam Young, Patrick Cantlay, all of that. You can always argue the ordering, but I really wanted to emphasize, like, I'm not high on Joel Damon at all because of the putter or lack thereof. It's just the metrics really, really like him, because when you put, half of your mixed condition model in terms of an iron play, basically, he's fifth, first, and fifth. He's going to rise. And he's unique. So, all right, enough rambling on that. Let's sort on the price board, figure out where our fellow contestants seem to be going, and how we can maneuver around them. So, column F, and then there. What? Oh, sorry. Wrong thing. My apologies. 1 second. F and then C. All right. In the 10Ks, in the 5 digits this week, we have 3 players. We have Colin at 10.9, Keegan at 10.4, and Patrick Cantlay at 10.2. To answer your question, Awaken, from the beginning of the show, you were talking about Colin versus Cantlay. I am sparingly playing 2 of these 3 players. So the player I'm not using at all, and it's a lot of the same reason as Joel Damon, I'm not playing any Colin Morikawa. None. 0. Not a bit. The reason being, yes, he finished runner-up here a couple years ago, but that putter is really bad right now, and even his irons aren't really all that strong at the moment. He lost a lot at the Travelers. He had been Jekyll and Hyde a little bit with the irons. He lost at the PGA. He's never been really a good putter, but lost at the Travelers, lost 9 at the U.S. Open. And you never see Colin lose consistently with the irons. And he's been losing consistently with the irons. So if we go back when he finished runner-up here, sure, he lost at the Travelers with the irons, but he had been what people think of Colin Morikawa leading up to that. And everyone's allowed a bad week, sure. But he had been extremely solid the rest of that calendar year. He has not been extremely solid, especially lately with the irons. The putter is always a threat to go just ice cold. I just don't want any part of Colin. And not to mention, like you put, Awaken, the interviews. He's been pretty darn testy lately. I think there's a lot of pressure there. And I don't think a lot of people realize he fired his caddy this week. He did have Max Homa's former caddy, Joe Greiner, I think is his name. Guy with a big beard. But those two are no longer working together. Colin and Joe are no longer working. So Colin's got a brand new caddy on the bag this week. That could help him, that could hurt him. I'm going to take the latter. So I just don't. There's just too much noise around Colin Morikawa right now. I'm just out. Keegan is 4 for 4. Yeah, interesting caddy change. Yep, I don't think many people realize that, but he does not have Joe Griner on the bag this week, or moving forward. They are no longer together. Keegan off for the win at the Travelers. Keegan is 4 for 4 in terms of making the cut here at the Rocket Classic. He's had a couple of decent top finishes. I think a couple of top 20s, maybe even one top 10. I am cautious. I'm just cautious of a letdown. I mean, that was a big emotional win for Keegan last week at the Travelers. He puts so much into that tournament. Now, yes, I understand the flip side of this is that everyone's making a big to-do, about him trying to play his way onto the Ryder Cup team, and that's certainly true. I'm just worried about a letdown. I will play Keegan very, very sparingly. If I'm in the 10Ks at all, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not up here much because especially, and it also helps that all three of these players have the perceived bad half of the draw. If I'm up here in the 10Ks, it is for Cantlay, but again, it's not much. It's really, really not much. I will play him sparingly. He is very, very popular. He hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire either. So I am very comfortably okay fading all the 10Ks. Like JT changed caddies and won, but Collins' interviews are bad. I mean, yes and no. Every situation is unique. But like you said, I will change, but not change, but different caddy. You're right. I knew what you meant. Like I said, there's just a whole lot of noise around Colin right now, between the interviews and then the caddy change, and it's just a lot of bad noise. So in the 10Ks, like I said, I'm going to go to Cantlay sparingly. I'll go to Keegan sparingly, and Colin is a full fade. But really, that tells you the style of lineups I'm building if I'm not doing much in the 10Ks. So don't be surprised whenever we start building lineups if I'm gravitating to one particular style of build. So that's the look at the 10Ks. Then we move to the 9s, the complete inverse of the 10Ks. Every single one of these 9Ks has the perceived good half of the draw. I'm still not playing Hideki. He is always a withdrawal risk. If you're willing to take that chance right now, especially with a major coming up, you're going to gain a whole lot on the field. Same with Siwoo. I know Siwoo rated first in my rankings. I'm not going there off of his withdrawal last week. But really, everybody else in the 9s is fair game. I mean, Ben Griffin is the most projected owned player. Don't care. Going to play quite a bit of Ben Griffin. Harry Hall. We're going to talk about Harry Hall a lot tonight. Throughout this evening, you'll see him on social media a lot. That tells you my feelings on Harry Hall. Cam Young is very, very popular, and I'm going to play Cam Young. So Luke Clanton is somebody else I want to mention. I was cautiously optimistic about Luke Clanton last week, and he was okay. Clanton was fine. He didn't set the world on fire or anything, but he also didn't finish DFL. So I'm okay with going back to Clanton. The one player that I really don't know what to think about is Max Grazerman. And you see that he seems to be quite the pivot off of the rest of the 9K chalk. I'm okay with it. I don't have any strong feelings for or against Max Grazerman. So, if you like him, use him, because you're going to gain quite a bit. I'm just extremely high on the chalk up here. This is all the chalk I'll eat. I'm going to eat it all. Don't care. I love all three of these players, and I will use some Luke Clanton as well. Good evening, Derek. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. What are your thoughts on Keith Mitchell? I'll get there. We're still on the 9s. So I'll get to him when we get to the 8s. But that's the way I see the 9s. I'm out on Hideki. I'm out on Siwoo because of the withdrawal risks, particularly Siwoo because of last week. Hideki he's always carrying that withdrawal risk, but Hideki also hasn't been very good here at the Rocket Classic in a couple of tries, so I can fade him. I'm going to eat the Griffin and Hall and Young Chalk. I'm going to play some Clanton, and then Max Grazerman's the true kind of wild card for lack of better terms. I don't know what to think of Max Grazerman, so if you have strong feelings for or against him, trust your gut, because I'm not going to steer. I won't be able to steer you one way or the other. But what I can tell you is that every single play in the 9Ks has the perceived good half of the draw. Siwoo ownership play only, or is he decent owned? I mean, he is quite literally all of the pivot. I mean, he is very, very unique. But like I mentioned, P, with him on the withdrawal at the Travelers, I just want no part of it. I would not be surprised if things don't go well for him that he withdraws again, considering we're coming up to another big portion of the schedule with the Scottish Open and the Open Championship here fairly soon. That's where I'm at with that. But if you're not scared of that, if you're not scared of the withdrawal from last week, Siwoo is an incredible play because of the perceived lack of ownership. I just can't get there, especially not after last week. Moving to the 8s. Most of these players do not have the good half of the draw. The 2 that do, 3 that do in the 8s, Keith Mitchell, Davis Thompson, and Chris Goddard. I'm going to play Keith Mitchell. Surprisingly, his putter hasn't held him back lately. He's actually been pretty solid. But a chalky Keith Mitchell always seems to disappoint. So I would caution you in that regard. But, except for the Canadian Open, he had actually been pretty darn good with the putter. We all know he's a ball striker extraordinaire. So the recent form is hot right now if you're willing to go back to March 30th for the Houston Open. I mean, yes, missed the cut at the PGA, but he played pretty darn well. He gained with the irons, gained off the tee, and gained on the greens. It's surprising he had a missed cut, but it is the PGA. One hole can take you out, much like the U.S. Open. A middling Charles Schwab, a decent Canadian Open. I don't hate Keith Mitchell by any means. I mean, I like it. A chalky Keith Mitchell just never seems to work out. If he is truly at 11%, I don't have any problem suggesting or recommending Keith Mitchell. I think he might be a little bit more popular than what Gabe thinks. But if he's not, it's a good play. So I'm going to play some Keith Mitchell. Probably not as much as what my ranking would suggest, because I'm extremely high on the 9Ks, even if they are much higher owned. But I will play some Keith Mitchell, don't get me wrong. I'm also going to play some Davis Thompson. But Davis Thompson has the same issue for Morikawa and for Joel Damon. That putter is atrocious right now. I mean, really, really bad. 141st in this field. So it's something to be worried about. But because he has the good half of the draw, if I am in the low 8s, I will play Thompson. I'll probably sprinkle some Batia as well. Just because he, like Keith Mitchell, rated so high. But bad half of the draw and pretty popular. This is a pretty easy fade if you're not feeling a Akshay Bhatia. The only other name that I kind of want to mention in the 8s, the mid 8s, is Matt Fitzpatrick. And I've talked about Matt Fitzpatrick quite a bit on the channel. Especially, before the 6-week hiatus and then a couple of weeks now back. Matt Fitzpatrick's starting to get his game back. He's at 10% ownership. The irons are starting to come back a little bit. I would rather be early on Matt Fitzpatrick than late on Matt Fitzpatrick. So even though he has the bad half of the draw, he's English. That's not going to bother him as much as it might for some other people. I mean, you can see he generally plays his best in the wind. Generally plays his best when it's difficult too. So take that for what you will. But he's playing a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde right now. But he gained 6 with the irons at the PGA. He gained 11 at the U.S. Open with the putter. You don't expect that ever at all, which is fine. But he's starting to put his game together. Starting to put it together a little bit. I would, even if you don't back him this week, which, again, I'm going to back him a little bit. I'm going to play him, and foreshadowing, I have an outright wager on Matt Fitzpatrick. Even if you don't back him this week, this is somebody to keep your eye on moving forward, because his game's starting to come back, because it was atrocious at the beginning of this year. So I kind of like Matt Fitzpatrick sneakily this week. But that's the look at the 8s. Basically, I'm playing Keith Mitchell, good half of the draw, a little bit off of the chalk down here in the low 8s. And he's definitely off of the Cam Young chalk in the low 9s. So it's a decent thought, Derek. Especially since that putter is okay right now. I'm probably not giving enough credit to Keith Mitchell. You probably should play him. I'm just not playing him as much as you might think, considering he was 6th in my rankings. That's all. I will play some Davis Thompson. I'm going to sprinkle some Akshay Bhatia. And that's really about it, other than, being pretty high on Matt Fitzpatrick in the 8s. Moving to the 7s, the upper 7s specifically, I don't like a whole lot up here. Jaeger is popular. That's enough of a reason to get off of him, because it seems like our fellow contestants are going to Jaeger in the upper 7s. Maybe Nikolai Højgaard, but even then, I'm not in love with it. Really, anything in the 7s is mid and below. I'll mention Taylor Moore. Taylor Moore is 3 for 3 at the Rocket Classic with 3 top 10s. He's been extremely consistent at the Rocket Classic. Now, he comes in with absolutely no form, as you can see. 101st by the model, 112th in irons, opportunities. The guy putts Bent and Poa Annua specifically. He's the player, or one of the players that I was mentioning, these Bent and Poa Annua specialists. So I do want to give a casual mention to Taylor Moore just because of the immaculate course history. But if you don't like him, I don't blame you, because I'm only playing him once or twice in all of the lineups that I play, and I play multiple lineups. Chris Kirk. Take a strong look at Chris Kirk. 6%. You see how well he has played in multiple tries around Detroit. Irons are good enough. The putter's been really bad lately, sure, but he's not this bad of a putter. So, I kind of like Chris Kirk. He's 4 for 4 as well around Detroit. Maybe it's 3 for 3, but he's been pretty solid here. Then moving into the mid to the lower half of the 7s, both of these players I really like. I am not worried about Victor Perez having the bad half of the draw. I love everything about Victor Perez this week. Look, he's fine in the wind, just fine. Plays his best when it's difficult. Look at these irons. Yeah, he had a bad week at the PGA, sure. 6.5. 6. 1.5 to Charles Schwab. 6 at the Byron Nelson. I really like the irons right now. And it wasn't too long ago he was winning. He was 3rd at the Canadian Open last year, 3rd at Puerto Rico, or maybe it was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago that he was, doing some things. So I like Victor Perez this week quite a bit, especially because he is so much of a pivot off of Emiliano Grillo, where everybody's going Emiliano Grillo this week. And for good reason. I like Grillo a lot. Number 1 in this field in irons. The putter, which normally holds him back, has been really good lately. So there's a lot to like here with Grillo. Good half of the draw. But that's a lot of ownership, 14%. Whereas Victor Perez technically rated out better and is half of the ownership. So I'm going to use both of these players, and I'm using both of these players a lot. But don't ignore Victor Perez. Elsewhere, was it you, Derek, that mentioned Vincent Whaley Monday night? He didn't rate out well for me. He's been okay here. You're playing Vincent Whaley for the putter. That's really all you're playing Vincent Whaley for. But elsewhere in the bottom parts of the sevens, like Jake Knapp, we all know what he does on these easy courses. You think like Vedanta. Vedanta's very easy. Jake Knapp plays very well at Vedanta. There is some similarities. Vedanta in here, forgiving fairways, fairly long. Take a long look at Jake Knapp. Ryo Itsatsune. He doesn't have a whole lot of negative in his in the top part of this mixed condition model. In fact, third in good drives gained. There's a lot to like with Ryo Itsatsune as well. And then down here at the bottom part of these sevens, Ricky Castillo's worth a look. I'm actually going to go to Antoine Rosner. Again, I'm not worried about the bad half of the draw for him. This is another Euro. Plays extremely well in the wind. The irons are really good right now. The putter is pretty hit and miss, but that can be for anybody. He takes advantage of par fives, is what is Rosner's big thing. So I like Rosner a lot at 7,000 to finalize a lot of these balanced lineups. I play once a week at an OG Midwest Don Ross Country Club. It makes me sick seeing these guys shoot 25 under. Don Ross, he is one of the premier architects for a reason. Like, these green complexes can be tricky, but then again, these are professionals. They're pretty good. Hot take. They're pretty good. So there's a look at the sevens. And then in the sixes, I really don't have a whole lot of recommendations here for you because I'm not down here in the sixes much with my lineups. So I'll give you a couple names just to maybe to consider if you're using a whole lot of Keegan or if you're using a whole lot of Cantlay. If you're using a whole lot of Colin Morikawa, it's fine. You and I are just going to be different this week. But I'll give you a couple names. Again, I'm not nearly as high on Joel Damon, so even though you see him rated 5th, I actually don't like Joel Damon all that much, but he does have the good half of the draw for what it's worth. The two guys that I kind of want to mention to you, Henrik Norlander, 6,900 Henrik Norlander, good half of the draw. Third in irons in this pretty good field. This is one of the best fields, if not the best field, the Rocket Classic has ever had. And Henrik Norlander is always a very, very good ball striker. What holds him back is his putter. But look at this. He's actually 13th in putting recently. Like, he's actually been putting really, really well. And that's a scary thing for the rest of the field because his irons are always really good. It's the putter that holds him back. You can see he's, in his career, he's been a negative half a shot putter, but he's actually gaining 1.5. So I would be willing to ride the hot hand there in terms of Henrik Norlander. And then the other one that I will casually mention, and he didn't rate out well at all, but this is more of a fantasy national glitch as opposed to like his true rating, is Hayden Springer. Hayden Springer, second in birdie. Gosh dang it, it's just off of your screen. Of course. Hayden Springer, second in birdies or better gained when it's easy. The irons haven't been great lately, but he was top 10ing early on this year in February and March on some difficult courses, and they were long. Now, Detroit isn't necessarily long, but it's not the Travelers in 6,800 either. So I do want to give the most casual of casual mentions to Hayden Springer. He also finished 10th here last year, for what it's worth. He does have the bad half of the draw, so that could blow up easily in my face. But those are the two 6K plays that I just kind of want to mention. Norlander and Hayden Springer. All right, let's start building some lineups. We'll start with tiers, and then we'll move to classic and GPP lineups and whatnot. For those who play tiers contest, tier 1, Colin, Keegan, and Cantley. I'll go Cantley. Yeah, it's pretty easy Cantley because all three of these have the bad half of the draw, so I just don't like much here anyway. If I could skip tier 1 and take 2 from tier 2, I would. But tiers doesn't let you do that. I'll take Cantley in tier 1. Tier 2, Griffin, Hideki, Harry Hall, Cam Young, and Max Grazerman. Give me Harry Hall. I don't care if he's the most chalky player in this tier. And it might be Cam Young, but give me Harry Hall in tier 2. Tier 3 is Siwoo, Luke Clanton, Keith Mitchell, Wyndham Clark. This is tough. I'm between Luke Clanton and Keith Mitchell. I might go Luke Clanton in that regard. Yeah, it's really close between these two, but give me Clanton, tier 3. Tier 4 is Ricky, Minwoo Lee, Fitzpatrick, Højgaard, Batia, Davis Thompson, and Alex Smalley. I'm going to be honest with you, it might be chalky. I'll probably take Davis Thompson just because he's the only one in the tier with the good half of the draw. If you want to get unique, take Matt Fitzpatrick. I do like Matt Fitzpatrick this week. But if you're trying to play safe, take Davis Thompson in a tiers contest. Tier 5, Goddard, Gerard, Thorbjorn Olesen, Noren, Michael Kim, Jaeger. Yeah, and Jaeger. It's only 6. Oh, Kevin Yu. Kevin Yu was the 7th, and he withdrew earlier this week. Yuck. I guess Ryan Gerard, because he has the good half of the draw, but again, I don't like much here in tier 5. So give me Gerard in tier 5. Finally, tier 6 is Echeverria, Patrick Rogers, Eric Van Rooyen, Gary Woodland, Putnam, Power, and Hubbard. Ugh. Flip a coin. I don't like anything down here. Yeah, I might take Eric Van Rooyen. He's got the bad half of the draw, but he rated out pretty well. So this tiers contest, Cantley in tier 1, Harry Hall in tier 2, Luke Clanton in tier 3. Tier 4, I'll go Davis Thompson. Tier 5 is Ryan Gerard. And tier 6 is Eric Van Rooyen. Okay, let's start making some classic lineups, some GPP lineups, figure out where our fellow contestants or how our fellow contestants are making their lineups, and then we can maneuver around them. First thing you got to ask is our fellow contestants, or are our fellow contestants going into the 10Ks? More often than not, it doesn't seem like they are. So we'll start with Ben Griffin and Cameron Young, and this is going to be really, really popular. And I'm going to do this same thing. I'm going to make I've made plenty of lineups where these two are, the top 2 guys in my lineups. So you can see just how much ownership is in here. It's a lot. It's a very, very popular beginning. From here, looks like maybe Davis Thompson, who, again, I like. You just have to be very careful on putting all of these very popular plays together. Emiliano Grillo is at the bottom of this. Maybe Taylor Moore. Yeah, and Stefan Jaeger. So this is leaving 100 on the table, but this is close to 100% cumulative ownership. This is ugly. This lineup is going to get duplicated a whole lot. Now, in your 50-50s, looks like my camera is starting to pixelate, so I'm hoping I'm not lagging. If it's distracting, let me know, and I'll just turn that off. But anyway, now in your 50-50s or in the contests that, first place and, the last person to cash is roughly the same, this might be a decent lineup. But in your big GPPs, I can't recommend this. This is just way too much ownership. If our fellow contestants are going into the 5 digits into the 10Ks, it looks like they're most often going to Cantley. which is tough because you see nobody really in the 6s is garnering much ownership. I see a 4.5 Sami Valimaki. That's about it. Yeah, that's about it. So even with Cantley, they're still bottoming out at Grillo at 13. This is Taylor Moore. This is Jaeger again. And then instead of going like double 9, they're having to go like low 8, high 8, maybe a couple of mid 8s. I'll throw Batia into this one. I used Thompson last time, but these two seem like they're interchangeable. 89, like Keith Mitchell maybe, Luke Clanton maybe. Not as high cumulative ownership because we're not using the behemoths that are Griffin and Young, but you still see, I mean, this is going to be pretty popular. And what's a shame is, like, I will play some Keith Mitchell. I will dabble some Batia. I really like Grillo this week. You just can't put all of these guys together in the same lineup. You're not going to be able to differentiate yourself enough from the majority of your fellow contestants. So how are you going to maneuver around this? Well, if you do decide to go into the 10Ks, I've given you a couple of 6K names you can use. Henrik Norlander is one. There's just blanked. 6,800 Hayden Springer. I'm going to use Norlander, especially since he has the good half of the draw. Again, I would use Patrick Cantlay here, but there's kind of nothing wrong with Keegan. He is 4 for 4 here at Detroit. It's just the win last week. How much did that take out of him? But if you're wanting to get unique, it would be Keegan. But more often, or I'm not really up in the 5 digits much in the 10Ks. I would lean Patrick Cantlay, but Keegan's fine. And then coming down here, you can go like Luke Clanton, get off some of the chalk. Keith Mitchell also works here. Derek, sorry, I'm just going to turn off the camera. That's kind of bothering me a little bit. Keith Mitchell could also work here, but just trying to get off of the Cam Young, get off of the Ben Griffin. Like, if you're not scared of Hideki, okay. If you're not scared of Siwoo, if you're not scared of his withdrawal from last week, like, I'm not doing this, but you're going to gain a whole lot by using Siwoo if you wanted this week. And then coming down into the 8s, like I mentioned, Matt Fitzpatrick. Depends on how greedy you want to get. Maybe you even try to squeeze in a Keith Mitchell. Yeah, you can easily do this. Go like Siwoo, get a Keith Mitchell in here, get 3 bigger names up top, and then you'll be more into the lower 7s, but that's plenty. There's plenty of names down here like Jake Knapp. I kind of like this week. We know how well he does when it's easy. Ryo Hitsatsune, Ricky Castillo. I'm going to take a chance on Antoine Rosner, but let's do something like Jake Knapp and Ricky Castillo. Like, you're even leaving a little bit on the table, and you're nowhere close to being duplicated. You might be duplicated once or twice, but for the most part, this is pretty unique. You're getting off of various chalk points at different areas. Maybe you really, really like Emiliano Grillo. You can still afford to take him in this lineup because you've went to Norlander, because you've went to Jake Knapp, because you went to Siwoo. You can afford to take a lower or a low price chalk guy like Grillo, and you're still fine. Gim, Long Iron guy, just saying, yeah, he is. What's his price? P. Because he's on the good half of the draw. Man, I backed him. Where was it? I backed him somewhere, and it just was not pretty. Doug Gim. Now what is his price? 69. Gosh dang it. There he is. I backed him somewhere and I was quite disappointed. Like the irons are generally pretty good, but he has to be, he has to consistently be like 4.2 to make up for what is traditionally or what is usually a really, really bad putter. And especially at a place like Detroit, I just don't think Doug Gim's going to make enough putts to contend. I just don't. I know he's your guy, P, but I just don't see him making enough putts to contend. So, this is one way. Oh, I already deleted it, but that was one way you can go about it. Going like Keegan, Siwoo, get off a whole lot of chalk. Even squeeze in a Keith Mitchell, Grillo. Who else did I put in here? Because this was Norlander. Did I do Castillo? No, I did somebody at 73. Jake Knapp. So that's one way you can go about it. Just go, at various points throughout the price board, just get off the chalk. Even Grillo's chalk in his region or in his, area. But that's going to be pretty unique. That's one way to do it. But the way I've mostly been doing it, I've been doing 2 of these 3. And I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes I've done all 3 of these in a lineup. Kind of depends on, how I'm going to go about that one particular lineup. Maybe one lineup is Griffin and Hall. One lineup will be Griffin and Cam Young. Another lineup will be Hall and Cameron Young. Like this lineup here, you're not able to do an 8 if you like an 8. This is going to exclude your 8s, but doing this, there's still plenty in the low 7s. Like I said, I'm going to play a whole lot of Antoine Rosner. I'll show you his page just very, very quickly. It's not a whole lot of data, but gained in 4 straight with the irons, gained in 3 straight with the putter. Considering he's never been a good putter, the fact that he's gained in 3 straight gives me some confidence. Like he's just playing really well right now. Top 15 at the Byron Nelson. Top 25 at the Canadian Open. I like a lot of this, and you see how well he plays in the wind. It's just been really, really strong in the wind. So I'm going to take a chance with some Antoine Rosner in my lineups. This can be Ryo Itsatsune. This could be Ricky Castillo, Patrick Rogers. That's one way I've been doing it. And again, I know it doesn't look like it's that unique. I'm just banking on the style of lineup being unique with the loading the 3 9s and then doing the 3 low 7s. I'm banking on that being unique as opposed to the overall ownership. So that's one way you can go about it. The other way, if you like an 8, I'm gonna beat the drum for Matt Fitzpatrick again. This could be Keith Mitchell. This could be Akshay Bhatia or Davis Thompson. I would be a little bit wary of using one of these 2 and using a high owned guy like Griffin, because that's going to start getting you into a whole lot of ownership. Like for example, if you use Thompson, that's starting to get you up there pretty good. So that's why I'm using Fitzpatrick. And then I'm using Victor Paris a lot to get off the Grillo chalk. Sometimes I don't care. Sometimes I'll do both, Paris and Grillo. And then round it out however you see. Jake Knapp, Ryo Itsatsune, Vince Whaley. You mentioned, I think, Derek, on Monday. If it wasn't you, it was somebody else in chat Monday night that mentioned Vincent Whaley. I'm not there, but shoot, Cameron Davis, 2-time champion. here at Detroit. Death, taxes, and Cam Davis playing well at the Rocket Classic. So you got a lot of options in the mid to low sevens. Chris Kirk, you got 100 here. Maybe you come up to Chris Kirk, who's playing well right now. So my core, and they all don't fit in the same lineup. Just understand, my core is a combination of these players. Emiliano Grillo, Victor Perry, and Rosner. Those 7 make up my core. So most of the time I'll have 4 or maybe even 5 of these players and just mix and match depending on where. So maybe one lineup I do these 2, go to the 8 for Fitzpatrick, and then go like Perry and Rosner and find another low 7. Then the next one I might go Ben Griffin, Harry Hall, and then throw Keith Mitchell into Matt Fitzpatrick's spot. And then Perry and Rosner. And then if I do these 3, then I'm going like Rosner and then a couple other low 7s. This is my core. These are 7 players I'm using in majority of my lineups, and quite literally scattershotting everywhere around everyone else around them. I'll have a little Keegan. I'll have a little Cantley. I'll have a little Luke Clanton. Maybe Luke Clanton takes Cam Young's spot in a quote big 3. Keith Mitchell will come in for Fitzpatrick. Davis Thompson will come in for Fitzpatrick. Maybe Davis Thompson comes in for Cam Young one time, and I do a little bit more of a traditional balance lineup with 2 9s, 2 8s, and 2 7s. But these 7 are going to be my core this week. So we've been going a little bit over time. Feel free to continue to ask any questions that you have. I don't want to leave anybody out if they have any questions, but we're going to go to the 2025 Picks Challenge with Gabe and I. Despite my poor performance last week at the Travelers, I still maintain a 3-point lead on Gabe. So our picks this week, and again, if you want to see our detailed write-ups that are over on his social media page, but I'm going to take Harry Hall to win. I've been backing Harry Hall for quite a bit, basically all year. I have Harry Hall in almost every single year-long fantasy golf thing that I'm a part of. I've been backing Harry Hall all year. He was one of the very few things I got right last week. I'm going to go back to the well again with Harry Hall. Gabe's going to take Cam Young, and I don't hate it at all. Cam Young makes a whole lot of sense. I'm playing a whole lot of Cam Young. I'm a tad bit more confident in Harry Hall. My favorite play is Victor Perry. Get off the Emiliano Grillo chalk. I don't like that he has the supposed bad half of the draw, but you got to take chances somewhere. So I'm going to get off the Emiliano Grillo chalk with Victor Perry. Gabe's going to go to Keegan. Keegan seems to be the pivot in the 10Ks. So Gabe's going to go to Keegan for his favorite play. I'm going to fade Colin Morikawa for all the reasons I mentioned earlier in the show. The interviews, the caddy change, the putter. I mean, if I'm talking about Doug Gim not making enough putts to win or compete, the same is true with Colin Morikawa. Do you really think he's going to make 25 to 26 putts to contend? I know he did it a couple years ago, but he was also in much, much better iron form then than he is now. I just don't see it for Morikawa. I don't think he is worth the price tag. I don't think he's worth the ownership. Gabe's going to fade Taylor Moore. I only casually mentioned Taylor Moore because he has 3 top 10s in his 3 visits to Detroit, but Taylor Moore's current form is atrocious. So Gabe's going to play the current form as opposed to the course history. Mad Scientist plays. I'm going to go with Antoine Rosner. I would have loved to have given you a 6K player to be the Mad Scientist play. I just don't like much in the 6K, so I went up to 7,000 and a very littly owned 7,000 at Antoine Rosner. Gabe's going to go to Justin Lauer for Mad Scientist. my fear of missing out, FOMO, like I said, death, taxes, and Cam Davis playing well at the Rocket Classic. It just happens. 4 straight top 20s for Cam Davis his past 4 years here. I'm not saying he's going to win, but there's something about this course that he likes. So I'm going to play a little bit of Cam Davis. Gabe's going to play a little bit of Chris Goddard, who I didn't talk about, at, I believe, in the 8s. Yeah, right at 8,000. And Gabe mentioned this in his write-up over on his social media page. Like, Goddard didn't rate out well for him, but there's been a lot of chatter about him, so he's going to throw him into a lineup or two. And then, literally, Gabe and I just weren't able to come up with a wild card category for this week. So we just went with favorite player who we haven't mentioned. Top wild card. I'm going to mention Matt Fitzpatrick. This is my chance to, again, really, really recommend and emphasize that I think Matt Fitzpatrick's on the rise. So he's going to be my mention. And then Gabe's going to go with Emiliano Grillo. Again, if you want to see our detailed write-ups, they're over on his social media page. His handle is on your screen there. I need to thank Awaken and P and Derek for jumping into chat. Very, very much appreciated. And thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. I love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. I haven't done well the past couple of weeks, so I'm going to try to get back on the winning ways this week for the Rocket Classic in Detroit. So thanks again for all the support, for all of the wagers you've made this week for the Rocket Classic, for all the DFS contests you play this week for the Rocket Classic, for this weekend and every weekend. May all your bets be profitable.